Hey guys, I want to talk today about homeschooling. So many of us are homeschooling now, whether we wanted to do it or not. But as someone who has been keeping their children at home for the last 21 years, I thought I would offer some encouragement. First of all, any young mama or any mom who comes to me and says, "Hey, I am thinking about homeschooling," I always tell them the why behind the what. So I was blessed to be in a church, Life Church, for 20 some years. And way back when I was a young mom, newly married, having babies, I had a mentor in my church who was a pioneer homeschooler. And she would have meetings with us moms that were just considering this. And I was also blessed to have my good friend and my pastor's wife, Amy Groeschel, who was also a young homeschooler. So a lot of us moms, a few of us moms, some of us moms chose the route of homeschooling our kids. When our oldest, who is about to turn 21, was 2 years old, I remember one night being up in the middle of the night, not able to sleep, and just praying and thinking, Lord, how am I going to let this little boy go off to school at 5 years old and be separated from me all day? So initially, my decision to homeschool was primarily selfish. I just could not imagine sending a child so small off to school to be separated from me because I loved him so much and he was my world. Well, Jesus was my world, but he was a big part of my world. So I started going to some of these meetings and I just fell in love with the idea of teaching him from home. But I was really scared. I was scared that I wouldn't be able to do it academically. I did not complete high school. I was scared that I might not be able to have the mental capacity or the patience to do it because my fuse was very short back then and I was a new Christian. I didn't have a big grasp on my emotions. I just wasn't sure if I could keep up with a rambunctious boy and keep him home all day and just the logistics behind it. So I had a lot of fears and a lot of concerns, but at the end of the day, through prayer, through seeking the Lord, I felt it was a calling and I felt like that God would give me the grace. His grace is sufficient for the day, for the task, for the calling, for the things that we choose to step into. He has grace there waiting for us. So I said yes, and little did I know I would have 5 other children, and I would say yes to all of those children. Initially, when I approached Jerome with it, he wasn't exactly excited about it. He did not want our kids to be weird and unsocialized. But he quickly came on board with all of it. So I went ahead and I said yes, and I have not regretted it one single day. Now, we do have a large family. We had 3 boys, pretty close together. Biologically, I gave birth to those boys, carried them in my womb. Initially, I said, okay, I don't want to make this legalistic. We didn't want to make it legalistic. We didn't want it to be something where we said, this is a hard and fast rule, and to be a good Christian, you homeschool your kids. That's just an absolute lie. Some of my best friends are working moms, and they love their children deeply, and they did not choose the path that I chose. In fact, I think I have more friends than not who public school their kids. So there's that. But for us, we didn't want it to be a hard and fast rule. We didn't want it to be something legalistic. Just like with everything else in our lives as believers, we wanted to take each year, each child prayerfully. And so it just so happens that years into it, we saw this is a long-term thing. And here is the why behind the what. Because we saw the benefits in the relationship that our children were building with each other as siblings. There was enough socialization just amongst them because there's so many of them. So we saw the relationship that our children were building with each other, and we loved that. And so that was a huge benefit. Most of all, the thing that I tell people all the time, the why behind the what, that I will never regret almost 21 years into this thing, is the fact that we have been able to pour Christ into them. And so in our house, we've always had a rule: Bible before breakfast. Our kids from the littlest age, our youngest is 9. We have one graduated, one almost graduated. They read their Bible first thing whenever they wake up. And sometimes when they're little, that's a little picture, storybook Bible. As they get older, it's their actual Bible or their YouVersion Bible plans. But we have them pick a book of the Bible and we have them read a little bit each day. So reading systematically in order. Our kids have all read through the Bible multiple times through using different year Bible reading plans or just with their paper Bible, just reading through. So we've been able to pour into them spiritually. Bible memory is big in our household. My husband is the chief Bible memorizer. He has 52 chapters of the Bible memorized, and for the last couple years, he just has been spending time every morning going over what he currently has committed to memory so he can retain those things. I think right now he is going over 1st or 2nd Thessalonians in his treasure time. We call our time with the scriptures and alone with God in the morning our treasure time. So it's not looked at as something legalistic or a checkbox sort of thing. It's a treasure. We dig for treasure in the scriptures, and we see God as our treasure. As we learn to discover more of who He is, we get to see Him as the treasure that He is. So we've been able to do that. For years now, my husband has worked from home, and we have lunchtime devotions, and that has been invaluable. He comes to the table and he shares what he's reading in the Bible. But even before he was at home, we've always had lunchtime devotions. Well, we've always had devotions of some sort, but for at least 10 years, they've been around the lunch table. And everyone goes around and shares what they read during their treasure time that morning. What did they learn about God? What stuck out to them? And those have turned into the best times of discipleship. And I just know I would have missed out on that, because having it happen around the dinner table would not have happened. It's not as easy with 6 kids all in different activities, taekwondo, dance, soccer, all the different things. It's just not as easy to have a daily devotion time around the dinner table. So lunchtime devotions have been crucial. I've been able to implement Bible memory from the youngest age. I remember Micah at 2 years old. Back then our church had something called DCC in Me, Developing Christ's Character in Me, I think is what it stood for. And we even did Awanas during that season. And so I remember him one year memorizing 50 paraphrased verses. And so Bible memory has been huge. And I know you can do all those things if you send your kids to public school, but I am a very undisciplined person, and I'm very scattered, and I require structure and routine because I am undisciplined and because I am free-spirited. So these are things that have easily been fit into our daily schedule, and we're all learning from each other. We're making disciples of one another. We're teaching each other, from the youngest to the oldest, things about God by sharing what we're learning in the scripture from our unique perspective. So that has been invaluable. Then you just add in all the time, just the sheer time that I've had with my kids. I've never done very many things outside of the home. I'm pretty committed to homemaking. A lot of even the ministry that I do have been inside of my home. Bible studies, leading a life group. We've led a life group the entire time that we've been married. So over 20 years, we've led a life group in our home. Worship nights, any of those kind of gatherings usually take place within my home. We have a ministry in Africa. That's something that we've all done together by moving there. Even when we haven't lived there together, the kids are very much a part of that by giving towards the needs of the orphans and the widows and spreading the gospel there, by praying for the people of Sierra Leone, which is the country we minister to, by writing letters to those kids, praying for those people. So they've very much been a part of it. So I'm very much committed to being a keeper of the home. I just need extra time with my kids because I am undisciplined to be able to foster those relationships. So we've been able to create a family culture and just allow our kids to see that we value them because we're teaching them. And another big benefit, this is the season of life that we're in right now, is, like I said, we have one graduated, one almost graduated who is attending Francis Tuttle for computer programming. And then we have the other 3 older kids are independent learners. So our 16-year-old teaches our 12-year-old. We do a curriculum called My Father's World that allows for large families to use a common core, not common core, but a core curriculum, and they have different academic levels of English and math and so on and so forth. But I only have one child that is not an independent learner, and even for her, she has a checklist every morning of about an hour to 2 hours worth of work that she can do on her own that only require reading and different things that she can do by herself. She listens to a biography, a Christian biography on CD, so she can get started with her school day even without me. So she only needs me for about half of the work in her syllabus. So we are at a sweet spot. It was very difficult when the kids were younger and just trying to manage so many things. I love the phrase that one of my homeschooling mentors would always say, let them make mud pies till they turn 5. So not to introduce formal academics until they were at least 5 years old. And so that they would have a love for learning, a love for reading. We tend to follow more of the Charlotte Mason style, lots and lots of reading and lots of good books. When we did get to the curriculum stage, I love that we were able to choose a Christ-centered biblical worldview curriculum. So all of the history, science, everything is approached from a Christian worldview, and I love that so much. So there are so many benefits, but the thing that I love most is I can look back now over almost 21 years and I can see that I've invested every single day into relationship with my kids, and they can see that they have been forced to be best friends, and they go to each other for advice. Our 2 youngest are each other's main playmates. Our children, just to give you context, are 21, 18, 16, 15, 12, and 9. We have 3 biological, so 3 biological boys. Those oldest boys are all bio kids, and then we adopted a sibling set of 3. So out of that sibling set, we have a 16-year-old daughter, a 9-year-old daughter, and a 12-year-old boy. So, and we got those kids all at once, and I know it sounds like a lot, but I would not change a thing. So if you find yourself forced into this homeschooling situation, I promise there are lots and lots of benefits that you will not regret. Your kids will learn everything that they need to learn to be healthy, whole, rounded adults. God has equipped you and given you everything that you need. There are various ways to homeschool, but the point is having your kids at home with you. The last thing that I want to leave with that I'm so thankful for God calling me in this homeschooling journey is the fact that I have been sanctified through and through. I am a selfish, sinful person by nature, and doing life every day with my kids has forced me to apologize so many times and take my kids with me to the foot of the cross and repent. It's allowed me to deal with so many different disputes between them and show them how they also go to the foot of the cross and humble themselves and apologize and make those relationships right. It's forced me to deal with selfishness and all kinds of things in my heart that I didn't even know existed that came out because I'm having to constantly lay down my life for my kids and just be a free chef, Uber driver, maid, teacher, all the things. No, it is free, but I get great reward in heaven and on earth. So